If I tell you that I'm going to run a D&D adventure about rescuing someone, you have something that immediately pops into your mind. And it probably looks a lot like a Super Mario adventure. The heroes are going to burst into the castle. They're going to defeat everything in their way, going level by level. At the very top, they will face the villain, who they will face and defeat. In doing so, they will rescue the princess. But I was imagining something more like Saving Private Ryan. A gritty setting where a group of soldiers go into war-torn land looking for a single other soldier to bring out. We get to the table and you're completely thrown for a loop. The story is nothing like you were imagining. Why are these two stories so different? And how do we make sure that we're matching expectations? I'm Alex Schmidt. Welcome to Storytelling at the Table, a video series where I talk about RPGs as a form of storytelling. This is episode 3, A Daring Rescue. You can go a lot of different ways with the rescue adventure, but for this video we're going to use two specific examples, the standard person in distress, and also the other example that we used, saving a soldier from a war-torn land. For each of these, we're going to pick the specific elemental genres we want them to have, and use that to inform the specific encounters, setting, and twists and surprises we want to have in the adventure. I just used the term elemental genre, which may not be familiar to you. Elemental genre is a term that was coined by the Writing Excuses podcast, which I'll mention down in the description below. Basically, it's not the same thing as your normal genre. Most D&D games would be shelved in the sci-fi or fantasy section in a bookstore, but that's not what we're talking about. Elemental genre deals more with the feel and focus of the story. In a future video, I'll go more in depth into elemental genres and how they can be useful for storytelling in RPGs. But for now, we'll just handle each one as they come up, and they should be fairly self-explanatory. Let's start workshopping the story of a person in distress. The person in distress could be anyone. It could be a king, queen, prince, princess. In my previous video, I used an example of a farmer's father. In an Eberron game I'm currently running, it was a reporter. For this specific adventure, let's say we're using the same story as the example in the previous video. We're trying to put together an adventure where the heroes are going to rescue a farmer's father from a group of brigands who are holding him for ransom. Once we have this basic story concept in place, it's time to think about the elemental genre, or the feel we want the story to have. In this case, we want a lot of action, and we want the heroes to feel powerful and like they're facing clear enemies. We don't want the tension to come out of intrigue, but rather whether the heroes can defeat the villains and save the farmer's father or not. For this case, we'll go with the elemental genre of adventure. If you're having trouble pinpointing the exact feel or genre you want your story to have, it can be really useful to think about what books or movies have the same feel that you want to have. For example, in this case, Star Wars and Indiana Jones. We're going with adventure for the elemental genre. That tells us we want to have a lot of action, whether it's stealth or combat or other things. It also tells us we don't want a lot of drama or intrigue. While we want the action to be exciting, we don't want the heroes to be constantly scared for their life. So we probably want to make sure that most of the combats aren't life or death. To help facilitate this, we're going to have the quest giver, the farmer, come straight to the heroes, trusting them, asking them for help, and readily giving all the information that she has. This will give the heroes a clear line to the brigands, and make it clear that the adventure is one about saving the farmer, not figuring out what's going on. Well, we could add some mystery by having the heroes have to figure out who kidnapped the farmer, where did he go. We could add an entire session or two of adventure this way. It gives a different feel to the story, and that's not what we're going for. The players may still ask why the farmer was captured, so we want to have an answer for that doesn't seem suspicious. For this case, let's say opportunity. The brigands work on the side of town that the farmer happens to live on, and her father takes regular walks in the hills. As we move on to the setting and encounters, it's important to make sure that everything feels larger than life. So first, the setting. The adventure happens in and around a small village, but the village isn't the most important thing. It's actually the brigand camp where the majority of the adventure will take place. So how do we make the setting of the brigand camp feel larger than life? How do we give it a cinematic feel? Well, let's say it has two levels. The lower level is surrounded by a fence of spiked poles. And of course, the father is kept on the upper level. Also, the upper level is right up against a cliffside. And because it's cinematic, let's add a waterfall there as well. A waterfall offers the brigands a reliable source of water, but also offers a weak point where the heroes may use that to be able to get in. For the encounter at the camp, we want the camp to feel scary so that a full frontal assault feels foolhardy, but if the heroes alert the camp, we don't want them to be completely overrun. So let's say that there are 24 brigands in the camp, and 4 of them are on guard at a time. If the guards are alerted, the other brigands will trickle into the fight a few at a time. This has a good cinematic adventure feel to it, with the heroes potentially fighting a few guards at a time, defeating them easily, but there keep on being more and more. There should also be a single boss brigand who's a little bit tougher than the rest, but not too much. We should give that person a name, just in case it comes up. but it's possible the heroes won't even run into them, as they may succeed in sneaking the farmer's father out of the camp without ever having a fight. Finally, I always like to add a secret or a twist that the heroes can discover during an adventure. This keeps the players guessing about what's going on in the story and the world, and helps keep them engaged, looking for things that might be more important than they first appear to be. In this case, since it's a fairly introductory adventure, let's have it just be that there was a bigger bad guy out there. The farmer's father saw the boss brigand talking to a large armored figure who hired them for something. Or perhaps, if you have a specific way you already want to lead the heroes, you have a letter from that villain to the boss brigand directing the heroes to a specific place. What you want to make sure you don't do is add some kind of intrigue where it turns out someone in the town is responsible for things or anything like that. After all, we're trying to keep an adventure feel, and we don't want that thriller tension taking away from the feel of an adventure. What we've done here is taken the basic idea for an adventure and then applied an elemental genre that we want, or a feel that we want, for the adventure. Then we've fleshed out the pieces of the adventure from there. This gives us a cohesive feel all the way through the adventure that will help tell a single story and give a single experience for the players. Now let's do the same thing with our other adventure. For this adventure, let's say that the heroes are a group of soldiers from the Brass Tigers, a mercenary company hired by the city of Equidian to find a young prince who, after a series of assassinations, is now first in line to the throne. He's out on the front lines fighting against the demon hordes. The heroes have to delve into the war-torn land, find the prince, and bring him back. It would be easy to go with drama for the elemental genre of this specific story, especially if there's an NPC around who can start political discussions, and the players have a tendency to have conversations on cold nights around the campfire while they're on watch. However, let's go with thriller. We want to have some action, and there have been a number of assassinations going on. That allows us to play with the fact that we may not know any NPC we run into, whether they're working with the assassinators or if they're actually willing to help the heroes try to save the prince. With the elemental genre of thriller, let's have the story start with the heroes being brought into the superior's tent, being given their orders in the middle of the night, and then rushed off to complete their quest without having a chance to talk to anyone else. This will give a sense of tension and urgency and foreboding. For the remainder of the setting, they're traveling over a war-torn wasteland. Refugees or other small groups of soldiers might be common enough, but you never know when they might be a threat, and the setting should be big and foreboding. When the heroes finally find the prince, let's have it be in the ruins of a village where the prince is currently fighting off a wave of demons, as well as another group of mercenaries who were sent to eliminate him. That should give a sense of dark and foreboding, and when the heroes finally do get to face the prince, he has a reason not to trust them, just like they have a reason not to trust anyone else. I've already hinted at some encounters, but to really bring home the idea that this is a thriller, let's have early on, the heroes run into another group of mercenaries who at first seem friendly, but then when they approach, they ambush and try to kill the heroes. This will give the sense that you can't trust anyone. Let's briefly discuss pacing. This isn't a travelogue. We don't want to hit moment by moment as the heroes travel. We want to jump from encounter to encounter. If the players want time to RP, definitely give that to them. But we want to jump from encounter to encounter because that will help to increase the tension as there is one risk after another. Every single encounter doesn't need to be combat. There can be refugees and things like that, but there should always be a threat of combat. Let's have 3 combat encounters, 2 with mercenaries and 1 with demons. Let's have 3 additional encounters, 2 with refugees and 1 with another group of friendly soldiers. That will give the heroes a chance to still ask for directions and have interaction with people who are friendly, but also have that threat and danger always in front of them. When the heroes finally face the prince, he should almost definitely think that they're trying to trick him. It should require either a social encounter or another combat encounter for the prince to finally trust them and for the heroes to be able to escort him back to the city. In this adventure, the moments of epic set-piece action are less important. They can still be fun, but more important is the ramping up of tension as each encounter causes the heroes to be less and less trusting of the people around them. However, we still don't want the full horror feeling of everything's going to kill me and I have no chance of doing anything about it. And that's our second adventure. For either of these adventures, you'd still need to write up the basic encounters, but you should have more or less everything else ready to go if you wanted to use one of these, or use these as examples to create some yourself. Thanks for watching Storytelling at the Table, Episode 3, A Daring Rescue. In this video, we looked at 2 different examples of putting together a rescue mission adventure with very different elemental genres and feels. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this video. It's a bit different than the other ones we've done in the past, so if you like it, I'm happy to do more like this, but I don't want to waste your time doing videos like this if you would rather I did more like what I've done with my previous videos. Also, let me know what ways that you use elemental genres in your adventures to make them a more cohesive experience. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. I'll be uploading a new video on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month. In the next 2 videos, I'll be going over my 4-step process for story-driven character creation. Until then, keep telling stories.